Hi, I'm Olivia and welcome to my presentation on The Help. I've chosen to analyse the film The Help, directed by Tate Taylor. Originally a novel, The Help follows the tale of an aspiring white female author during the civil rights movement in the 1960s in Jackson, Mississippi. Skeeter is wanting to detail the untold stories of African American males and their experiences within their service of white families and the hardships that they face on a daily basis. I will be exploring The Help in terms of its purpose, barriers, stereotypes, and representation. The Help explores the hardships and prejudice faced by African American women on a daily basis, working for privileged white families and in a society that is dictated by the colour of their skin. The film encompasses both white racists and sympathizers. To present this film in line with the original novel, which was loosely based around the author's own experiences. Lott notes, to use personal testimony to reconstruct the past could be viewed as bias on history. Critics have argued that the film has misrepresented African American women's efforts during the civil rights movement and fails to recognize them for all their work during the time of the movement. However, the film emphasizes the power of voice that is depicted through the stories of the maids to share their stories anonymously through Skeeter's novel, so that she can speak for them, emphasizing again the white protagonist of Skeeter and the voiceless African American males of Minnie, Aibileen, and the other maids. Lott makes evident of the gender biases in the portrayal of women within contemporary films that still seem to exist today. Ever since the silent film era, African American women have struggled alongside white, specifically men, in opportunities for respectable roles and professional treatment. This preferential treatment has meant that gender and racism has been a barrier within both the film industry and society. During the 1960s, African American women had limited employment opportunities due to legal segregation and economic inequalities. Therefore, many were maids of white families that were paid below minimum wage where their employees exploited them. Their barrier was the color of their skin and being a woman, which meant that they would take on the only job opportunity available during the time period, which was a household maid. An example from the film is the treatment of the maids in using their employer's household toilet. It sparks such an uproar among the white women that Hilly Holbrook begins an initiative that states that every white bathroom must have a separate toilet for the coloured help. This is an example of how, based on their race, the maids were not even allowed to use the same bathroom, as it may allegedly cause diseases or infections to the whites. Stereotypes are heightened during media to appeal to the audience's predisposed attitudes of what and how the type of character should act. They generalize a group of people based on their social group, characteristics, or appearance in a biased conception of reality. However, they are not essentially historically accurate. The African American women were stereotyped as the mammy figure, a mythical stereotype of black women who were compelled to serve white families. During an interview between Skeeter and Aibileen, when Aibileen is asked the question, "Did you know you always wanted to be a maid?" her response was, "My mother was a maid, my grandmother was a house slave." The women were portrayed as voiceless and feared for their job security to look after their own families. It is implied that Minnie's husband is abusive and physically assaults Minnie at several points in the film as she lost her job as her maid. However, the director refuses to show these scenes to the audience. Lott argues that this is an inaccuracy of the violent struggles that African American women face within their domestic household. We can question why the director implied abuse without exploring it further, however we cannot be certain of his intentions. Society has altered their attitudes drastically since the 1960s towards racial prejudice, especially among the millennials. A survey found that young people are viewed more tolerant of races and different groups of people compared to the older generations. We are not completely ruling out racism and discrimination, however, it has changed since Jim Crow. The film shows a scene of Skeeter looking at the Book of Rights, laws governing the conduct of non-white Americans, and she is horrified at such unlawful acts. When Hilly sees that Skeeter is reading the book, she tells Skeeter to be careful as there are real racists in their town. The audience is left to wonder whether she can view her own behaviour as being racist. The attitudes towards African American individuals has shifted based on films and over time, which is a positive change. However, there still remains an ominous breach between white and black Americans that may always exist. The film shows what an exclusive community looked like in history and may be used to make reference to discriminatory behaviour based on race and power. When analysing the help, the exclusivity of the community is predicted based on your race to be respected amongst the group. However, even then, as you can see the tension between Hilly Holbrook and Celia Foote, as Celia was not accepted into the group of ladies because she did not share the same morals as the other women within the group. If you look at Skeeter, she challenged the stereotypical role of white women in Jackson, as she was single, with no children, and with a job that was influential. Therefore, even when you're white does not mean that you'll be included within your community. We cannot deny that the filmmaker has fictionalized aspects of history to make it look like a reality. However, the exclusion from society and prejudice was real, and that you cannot deny.